Hello guys, welcome to the channel. This is the story about what if Naruto was the Jinchuuriki of 9 Bijuu x Highschool DxD Part 2. Before I start the video, please subscribe the channel for more fanfiction video and please share this video with your friends. This story was written by Havoc Tear. With any more interruption, let's start the video. Kyoto Shrine. Kuno leads Naruto through the outer, public areas of the shrine by the hand, clearly happy to be in the teen's presence, much to the surprise of the staff. She was obviously not aware of the discussions happening within Naruto's mind for their next course of action. Kurama huffs as he was not amused by the suggestions of Naruto, who had states, "The longer we stay, the harder it is to move on. You told me that, Kurama." Yuki sighs and nods, replying to their host, "That is true, Naruto, but do not recall we are no longer being hunted here? Perhaps we can stop." Kokuo cut in, speaking up, "I vote to keep moving. We do not know what these beings will want from us." Kurama growled at the dolphin horse, speaking heatedly, "Of course you do. You never stop moving." Son Goku spoke next, surprisingly thoughtfully offered, "Nothing is ever free, Kurama. Our very existence is proof of that." The fox backs off, slightly, knowing that. Saiken squeaked out, "Maybe we can make a deal? Perhaps it won't be bad." Matabi shook her head, stating, "Did you not hear that, kitten? They can smell myself and Kurama. Whatever they request, it will not be easy to escape." Chomei chimes in, nodding to that too, "Yes. They will not allow us to leave SSSS so easily." Shukaku chuckled, shaking his head, "Like they could stop us. We can just kill them if they stand against us." Kurama grunted but looked at the cross-legged Naruto sitting among them patiently, speaking softly, "Naruto." The teen looks to his oldest friend. Kurama continued, "We cannot run forever. This world seems vast but also vengeful. No doubt any other sages, or nature-aligned entities, have taken notice of our arrival if nothing else. Getting caught alone will be our folly." Naruto nodded to that. It was true and a likely outcome, but they can't stay either. After a deep breath, Naruto replies, "I understand that, Kurama. I do. Honestly. However, staying in one place puts a target on our back and a location of the fight. A fight I would personally rather avoid, as you said we are alone out here." Kakuo nodded to the wise words, looking to Kurama, saying, "Just because the hunter nin can't reach us, does not mean we can stop moving. If they find a way here, this is the first place they'd look." Kurama could not fault that logic. It was true. The same reason they themselves came here was the chakra here. Yet before he could speak, Naruto did. "Oh, the little one is getting my attention." They all look on, and true enough, she was speaking a mile a minute. They all chuckle as Naruto stands, before his parting words, "We'll stay a night. Maybe two, depending on how things go. Then we move on. We retake our shifts on watch. Tonight, Chomei, I believe it's your turn, so please don't expend yourself." Upon the nod from the seven-tailed horn beetle, Naruto turned back to the outside world. Kuno stating, as she looks back at Naruto, "This is the guest room, or your room now." Naruto smiles as he ruffles her hair, much to her secret joy, though she pretends to be annoyed. Her flushed cheeks betrayed her though. Stepping in, Naruto inspects the room with a razor-sharp eye and spots the fact that the wardrobe is on wheels, and a hidden seam runs around it. A secret door perhaps. The futon looked comfortable, but there is a slight, barely noticeable something hanging around. Chomei speaks up in his head, "I am analyzing it. Give me a few minutes." Naruto nodded as he maintained his scanning of the room. There was no hidden seals he could see. This time Shukaku speaks up, "None in the building so far. None here either. We're good to go." Again, Naruto nodded to confirm he understands, as he moves to the side door. Upon opening it, a bathroom appears before him, fully stocked and supplied. He steps into the pristine room and makes a beeline to the soaps. A quick sniff, then poking it. Saiken reports promptly, "The first soap is clean. The second one though, I recommend avoiding." Naruto sighed internally, as he continued to inspect the room, asking, "Let me guess. A relaxant of some kind." He feels Saiken's nod, confirming it, and he nods, inspecting the available towels, and this is when Chomei reports back, "Yeah. This room is SS Supect at best. The compounds SS are geared towards SS procreation." Matabi hissed out, Mio. Entrapment. That wench. Naruto continued back into the main room where Kuno was awaiting with her mother now. He offered a smile that did not reach his eyes. Thank you for the hospitality, Yasaka-chan. Kuno-chan. Kuno cheered with a beaming smile, though Yasaka was far more measured with her dainty smile. Not at all, Lord Sage. I have had our attendants prepare the bathhouse for your soaking needs, and dinner will be prepared shortly. Naruto nodded with all due swiftness, speaking internally, this is definitely going to be a short stay. Kurama huffs, fine brat. I agree things look bad. Externally though, Naruto responded, I thank you for the effort and everything, but I think I just shower and sleep. It's been a long few days since I got any so. He trailed off and caught the surprise upon the youngest present clear as day, however he also caught her mother's too. Yasaka was indeed surprised by that tiny piece of information. Whatever happened to land him in the devil's custody, it was not due to weakness but a protracted battle. She needed him now more than ever. It was shudder-inducing at the thought of his true might of this as him weakened. So, putting on her best smile, Yasaka nodded with a firm resolve, I see. Then, I shall bring you your food while you shower. Please, relax and rest well. You are safe here, I assure you of that. Naruto nodded back, thank you, Yasaka-chan. After mother-daughter left, Naruto slumped hard, reaching into one of his hidden pouches beneath his haori, speaking internally. Shukaku, can you seal off the room fully? I don't want that wardrobe moving a millimeter. Shukaku snorted, cracking his knuckles, give me 20 seconds. Naruto grinned, as he retrieves his camping gear scroll, and out pops a sleeping bag, Shomei. Work with Seiken on antidotes for those compounds we detected. It could be vital for the next few days. He senses the two addressed Bijuu nod, so Naruto moves on. Kakuo, can you steam clean all our gear? We have a moment of respite and don't know when else we'll get a chance. Kakuo nodded, it was smart to stop as little as possible, so responded, just waiting for. The Five Tails was interrupted by a burst of Shukaku's chakra in Naruto's hand, currently resting on the floor flat, his unique script rapidly expanding in all four directions, slithering across the floor, climbing the walls, and running across the ceiling. The place was secure, and none could sense anything within the main and bathroom. A set of hand signs later and out puffed miniature versions of all 9 Bijuu and a surprised guest. All stretching and yawning. It has been a while since Naruto last let them out for any length of time, as it's hard to mask their signatures out in the open. Even more so when the entire world's shinobi force is searching for you. Done with his part, Naruto threw off his gear, which Matabi, Son Goku, and Shukaku tended to. Need to ensure that the kunai weren't shipped in that engagement and any damage is repaired. This allowed the only human present, and the Bijuu use that term very loosely whenever referring to their host, went to freshen up. Kurama jumped and perched on the windowsill, keeping watch for anything that attempted to get through the barrier masking their presences. Shomei and Seiken were hovering or slithering, respectively, around the room collecting any samples they can before Kokuo's steam purifies the room. Speaking of the Five Tails, Kakuo, Isobu, and Gyuki were spreading out Naruto's clothes and pressure washing them, then steam drying them to ensure nothing but cloth remained. Not a single pathogen, bacteria, nor virus could survive their joint assault. This was so well rehearsed at this point, it was not even considered clockwork but rather a systematic effort to keep moving an irregular chore. So, they all forgot about the still struggling to move small red dragon cub who was blinking owlishly at this all. He hadn't been expecting to leave that sealed space, let alone with a new body made of chakra. Heaven's 7th level. None recall the last time a joint council of the archangels was ever called. Yet, upon her return, Gabriel had called one. This was big news. The 4 great seraphs were present, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and of course Gabriel having been the one to call. The others like Madarone, Sandalphon, and even Sariel were in attendance. Gabriel stood from her seat headed to the podium and began to explain what she had discovered. Earlier today we discovered an unusual energy pattern which was soon joined by 2 of the 4 Satans. Many sat up straighter and a few raised brows at the fact that 2 Satans were mentioned, but Gabriel pressed on. Upon closer inspection, I discovered a single human was fighting against them both and fending them off whilst also purifying his system of the devil reincarnation ritual. This now had the full, undivided attention of every single angel, with Sandalphon standing up, Surely you jest, sister. Gabriel shook her head, before explaining further, I am not. Upon realizing the danger this human was in, I deployed with both Uriel and Metatron with escorts to confront them. We arrived to witness the human eject an active rook piece from his chest and crush it in hand. Many murmurs among the gathered, with many asking Metatron questions who confirmed what was said. Gabriel continued, that is not all. We discovered that he could transform into a giant, blue flaming cat with 2 tails. Michael then asks, then, he is not a human but a yokai? Gabriel beamed a megawatt smile but shakes her head, no, something far greater than that. The unified interest of the Heaven faction had never been this strong, and thankfully, Gabriel couldn't contain herself, exclaiming, he is a sage. Raphael quirked a brow, a sage? Gabriel nodded as she gained a distant gaze as she speaks the thoughts she had back then, dreamily softly saying. His life force was so brilliantly full, no, it was overflowing with so much life that it was like the planet itself was heeding his call. Wildlife came to his aid on their own accord. Many were regaining interest in this, Gabriel continued, it was so soft and fluffy, yet it was also firm and unyielding, just like. Uriel finished for her, like Raphael. She beamed and nodded, it was so supportive, unrelentingly so, but was not forceful in its nature. Metatron muttered, like a favorite first son. Gabriel continued, excitement flowing through her entire being, it was fierce and fiery, yet calm and peaceful, just like. Michael turns to Uriel who nodded, arms crossed, I would not believe it had I not seen and felt it myself. This sage referred to himself as of the 6 paths. We must determine what that means exactly before the week is up. Michael asks, cautiously. A week? Gabriel nodded repeatedly, yes. We spoke with him briefly after his duel with the Red Dragon Emperor. Gasps echoed across the room, causing the 12-winged woman to look around confused for a moment before realizing her words and corrected their conceptions. Oh, right, his duel with the Dragon Emperor. Uriel snorted, shaking his head, that was not a duel, it was an execution. That dragon died at the sage's hand. Its former host, however, still lives to earn penance for his transgressions. At least. That is what I have chosen to believe. Many were wide-eyed at that. The Red Dragon has been nothing but trouble for a long time, and all throughout history. None could stand against them, until now it seems. Gabriel nodded solemnly, adding, his sacrifice was to protect that boy. Raphael cleared his throat, all eyes fall on him as he asks, a week? Gabriel's mood 180, as predicted by Raphael, and she explained, yes. When we spoke to him, he was leaving with the yokai leader who said that they will welcome us in a week to speak to him. He was tired and needed to eat, so we agreed. Many nodded in agreement. If this sage is powerful enough to kill the Red Dragon so easily and have such a potent life essence that it compares with all 4 of the great seraphim, then this one is a must-have. Michael nodded, standing up, we shall meet with him then. He sounds like someone we must be on good terms with. Grigori headquarters' stunned disbelief echoed Azazel's office at his declaration. The Red Dragon Emperor is dead, permanently. The one most stricken, unsurprisingly, was one Valley Lucifer, also known as the White Dragon Emperor. The destined rival of the now deceased emperor. The teen growled in frustration, disgruntled at such an outcome as he paced around the office. Barakiel on the other hand wanted answers to the rest of what he heard, fists slamming down, my daughter, what of her? Azazel raised a hand to calm his subordinate, calm down Barakiel. Last I saw, she was banged up but in one piece. Can't say the same for her friend though. Her king that is. Shemazai speaks up next, yawning, then asked, what does that mean exactly? Azazel grinned, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed, that red-haired heiress got her spine cut open from the looks of things. The entire peerages of both the Gremory and Citri were on death's door, near enough. Benamune adjusted her glasses, asking, you say one man did this, battled 2 established peerages, 2 Satans, and that Ice Queen, the Red Dragon Emperor in Balancebreaker and still came out on top? Azazel nodded simply, grinning like a fool, exclaiming, yep, didn't even break a sweat the entire time. He paused before recalling a key piece of information, oh, actually, I think he was handicapped for most of it actually. It seems he was working on expelling those evil pieces during the fight. I only caught the ending, but I saw him crush the thing before turning into a massive two-tailed cat made of dark blue flames. Valley abruptly slammed both hands on Azazel's desk, growling, "A damn Yukai, I want his head." Azazel glared at the kid, voice tight as he responded, "He'd take yours. He is not a Yukai. No, something far more dangerous than a simple chakra user." Valley growled, "What the hell, kid? Sage of Six Paths." Azazel cut the brat off, causing everyone to gasp. Valley looked bewildered, not understanding, but the much older Fallen clearly did, with Benamune muttering nervously, a sage? Did they not die out centuries ago?" Azazel sighed as he nodded, "Yeah. That's the general consensus among the supernatural. Seems this sage had been sniffed out somehow. Got caught by the devils who did not understand exactly what they had found and tried to enslave him." Barakiel nodded thoughtfully, frowning at the thought of the danger his daughter was in due to the devil's negligence. Indeed. They're lucky to have survived. Valley looked even more confused, and was about to ask, but his gauntlet activated, asking the room, "If this is a true sage, then confrontation is a short way to our demise. I advise caution. They act on a whim and not above force if cornered." Azazel nodded in agreement, "Oh, I know. The only sage I recall was a piece of work, but was the last girl I wanted anything to do with. Cut a swath through the battlefield without an effort. Didn't even look like she knew she was in a battlefield the way she parted the earth to make a clear path for herself." All the Fallen shudder at that particular memory, Barakiel added, "If this new sage is even half as strong as that one." Azazel looked dead on his subordinate's eyes. "Barakiel. He one-hit both the Red Dragon and Red Satan. I think he is by far the strongest sage in existence." They all gulped at that, as now even Valley was hesitant. His power revolves around touching his opponent to drain their powers. In order to do so, he needs to get in close and use hand-to-hand combat, which puts him in striking range of this sage. He was about to dismiss this, but then his gauntlet spoke again, "Valley. With the power this being seems to hold, we cannot drain him without shattering your very existence to atoms. If you provoke him, he will kill you. Kill us." Azazel adds, "He is right, Valley. He will kill you outright. He does not fight for glory or strength. He fights to survive. To do the whims of the planet. Cross him. He will go for the quickest way to take you down. The Red One learnt the hard way. Now all he is left with is a dead gear." As this talk was happening, a certain two-tailed Nekosho had overheard the whole thing and decided to see if she can find out more about this supposed sage currently living in Kyoto. Shouldn't be too hard. She's a Yukai attuned to nature too, so finding him should not be that hard. Olympus Zeus looked down on his most loyal daughter, currently bowing with her fist on the ground, currently contemplating her request. Apparently, early this day, a new overpowering force of nature arose in the east. So much so, that many of their satyr believe it to be Pan reborn. The nymphs too, all across the domains, are up in arms wanting to find this power source, to which Apollo had revealed as emanating from the nation of Japan, the Shinto domain. Yet here was his daughter, also now request permission to take a few of her elite hunters to scout out this new threat. Or ally. It is a nature-based entity that has no ties to Gia. Or does it? This could be a trap for his daughter in an attempt to force him to release the captured Titan's serving time in Tartarus. Then again, if left unchecked, it could become an issue later on. An issue they would be unprepared for. Clearing his throat, Zeus finally answered his daughter's request. "Very well, Artemis. Seek this being out and analyze it to determine whether it is a threat to Olympus or not. If you believe it will be to our benefit, then retrieve it, as no doubt we could use its strength in our domain. Pan is still missing, and it may serve as a way of locating him." The auburn-haired, preteen-looking goddess of the hunt, wild animals, vegetation, moon, and chastity, glanced up and nodded to her father, Artemis replying, "I will not fail you." Vanishing in a beam of silver, before Zeus looked to his golden-haired son, asking, "Apollo, speak with your Shinto counterpart. Ask if she knows anything about this unknown energy surge." Apollo grimaced, never really able to get on with Lady Amaterasu, but nodded after the fact, replying, "No sweat. I'll see what I can dig up and relay it to Artie." He too vanished in a golden beam, leaving the king of the god to let out a sigh, before discreetly checking on his secret daughter. She is still with her mother, but looks like she's planning to leave. If she makes it to camp, then that's fine. Hidden temple dim candle lights flickering in the center for the room before eyes peek open from the darkness that enveloped the chamber of meditation. A low hum, it seems. A new light has arisen in the east. Another hum, slightly deeper, the voice speaking softly, as if a windy breeze. Most certainly. How does this affect the balance? The first voice returns. It is hard to say. It is not of light nor darkness. Perhaps it is yet maintained. A third voice, we shall wait and hear what comes of this news. Two other hums of agreement. Kyoto Shrine. After his brief shower, using the designated safe soap, Naruto returns to the room to see Didrig still wobbly on his feet. The small dragon was the size of a teenaged cat, kinda tubby and had his wings flopped flat, and was rather cute in a weird asks, "Are you okay there, Didrig?" Looking a little off balance. Didrig looks back at the sage, only to lose his balance again and trip over his forward legs again. Growling, the red dragon tries again, and this time was able to get a more stable footing, before responding. It has been a very long time since I had any autonomy or a body to call my own. I am unaccustomed to it. Learning to walk again is proving more challenging than I thought. Naruto nodded as he catches the thrown undershirt from Yuki, before replying. I see. Well, while we are in secured areas, like this room, I let everyone out as no doubt it's a bit boring in there. So, as long as you are with us, you two will be gaining this time to do as you please. Didrig was genuinely confused at this generosity. They were enemies not too long ago, yet this sage was treating him fairly like the others. Sure, his host had started the fight, a fight that was already over and lost over a girl, but why is he not angry, bitter, or resentful? Weren't sages battle maniacs that followed the whims of nature itself? His thoughts were cut through by Shukaku squealing, "Hey, someone's at the door." Naruto finishes pulling up his Anbu trousers, and stands from the bed. You guys know the procedure. Son, pick up Didrig. The four tails hopped over to the barely standing dragon, and effortlessly lifts him onto his back, and darts into the bathroom, with the others, door shut and sealed to prevent detection. Naruto nodded, made a crane hand sign and held it while counting down from 30. Dropping it, he moves to the door, and grips the handle. The seal lifts partially that allows him to pull it apart, revealing a smiling Yusaka with a tray of food. We didn't know what you liked, so we just made a selection. Naruto blinked at that, before his senses picked up the three other yukais just outside his field of vision. Nodding his head, he parts the door and steps aside, allowing entrance to the room. Yusaka had been surprised Naruto had taken so long to open the door. Oh. It appears he had just showered, as she could smell the soap. She can smell that he hadn't used the shampoo though. That's too bad. His freshly showered look was easy on the eyes though, a simple black t-shirt, trousers paired with his wild long sunshine blonde hair, that was no longer braided down his back, was so exotic, but also reminiscent of her own. This is when she also saw his eyes were no longer two different colors, it rather a single, shimmering sapphire. Yet they had a level of sharpness only normally afforded to hunters or predators. Oh. They're slit. Like hers. This brings up more questions than answers, so she just smiled and offered the food. He stepped aside, and she leads the parade of her best shrine maidens. Surely one of them will catch his eye and work further in cementing his allegiance. In the room, which was now neatly arranged with his stuff, several piles of clothes, neatly folded and pressed. His long-sleeved hirori was hung from the wardrobe's corner, the design different from the fight when he powered up. As she places the food down, she also took notice of the mesh, what she assumed was armored shirt of some kind, with a sewing kit beside it on the spread futon. Though, she notices the needles were black and not the normal silver as they stand out on the white bedding. By design? Maybe. Yusaka turns back to see Naruto watching them all with a hawk-like gaze, remaining at a safe distance, but his gaze did not linger nor wonder, just observed their every movement as if they were about to attack so he can react. Like a hunter. It also seemed those cracks that had formed earlier had vanished, and he was silently strong, powerful enough to take on the world and win, but needing to type again. Had they regressed? Putting that thought aside for now, Yusaka speaks. Is there anything else you need? Perhaps a few. Naruto cut her off, with a raised hand, a smile that didn't reach his eyes again. No, thank you, Yusaka-san. This is more than enough. Thank you for your most gracious hospitality. Yusaka didn't let it show, but that hurt a bit. They had somehow regressed in the hour it took them to prepare food. Instead, she replied, "Not at all, Lord Sage. We're happy to help in your time of need. Feel free to call upon us if you require anything." Naruto nodded stiffly, putting a smile on his face. "I will keep that in mind. Thank you again." Yasaka gestured to the other yokai to pass by first, and again, no reaction from the slim athletic bunny girl maid, or the thickness given form bear woman, or the slightly muscular, well-endowed girl from the bull clan who left last. Just that hunter's gaze. Yasaka bowed once and Naruto returned it, and she left, not before noticing the black Tonto in the corner of the room with a sharpening stone of some kind. So, he's a short sword user. Perhaps her blacksmiths might be able to offer him a new way towards his goal. The second the door shut, Yasaka turned to her attendants and was about to speak until she noticed something off. Looking back at the door, she realized she can't sense anything beyond it the second the door shut. Blinking at that, she was about to pull the door until she froze. An incredibly fine film of chakra coated the door now. It was so fine, it is impossible to sense, and she only caught it by chance of the low light, and at a certain angle. It is so perfectly masked by the ambient chakra she wouldn't have noticed it any other way. He set up a barrier around the room. She hadn't spotted anything within to suggest that he had, but then again, she hadn't been looking. Yasaka smirked. Oh, this sage is most definitely something she cannot overlook. Their efforts must be doubled. Naruto sighed after the door shut, flicked his chakra in a rehearsed pattern telling the others it was safe. The bathroom opened, and the 10 small beasts returned to find the room filled with food. Stepping up, Naruto watched his friends and family members they all gathered together before the food, though he took note that Diedrich was now stumbling unaided now. A marked improvement. As they eat, Diedrich is brought into the family dynamic with surprisingly amount of ease, with his inclusion feeling like he was always a part of it. He was hesitant to admit it, but these outsiders were a breath of fresh air. Perhaps, things may not be as bad as he thought they'd be. Underworld Searzex and Serafal were the last two to arrive at the emergency council meeting they had called. Many were annoyed by that, but again, neither cared. Their siblings were in the hospital, critically injured by the topic of discussion. Sona's arm couldn't be reattached due to the wound being cauterized by the blade the sage was wielding, thus she is still undergoing treatment. Pfennig's tears would only be detrimental for that particular injury. Her entire peerage, bar her queen, are all in various states of disrepair. From gauged flesh to cracked skulls, they are all being tended to by the best the Seatree House has to offer. They were going to live, but what concerned most was in what manner they would. Such a heavy, brutal, and one-sided defeat at the hands of one man, a human no less, might have lasting effects on their psyche. The Gremory House was by far the worst off of the two. It is still being debated whether to mark Menma a stray devil or not, as he did eject and destroy his piece from his body, so it is undecided at the moment. This, of course, has never happened before, but this was also a fact that was twofold. A stray Gremory devil. A former devil now. Rias, despite receiving top-of-the-line care, is still unable to move her legs. There is also concern that she may be unable to have children due to the damage her uterus had sustained by the attack. If it was a simple cut, it would have been dealt with already. If it was a simple burn, wouldn't have even been considered an injury. Together, that is the problem. Akeno and Kiba came out of this relatively unscathed. The knight have a few broken ribs that had already been dealt with. Akeno had a dislocated arm and a punctured shoulder, paired with a light concussion. That was all. Asia is suffering from early signs of PTSD, seeing everything unfold, being in the middle of it all, and being unable to act. She has never been subjected to that kind of combat before, the ease of which their enemy had cut down her friends, battled the other peerage, and held of the two Satans was plaguing her. The guilt at not helping was beginning to gnaw on her nerves. Kaniko's snapped femur took some effort to reset, but it has, and she was the fastest recovering from her injuries. The physical ones at least. Being so soundly, and effortlessly, defeated by someone using nature energy again has caused her to return to her pre-Gremory self, isolated from the world at large. No one knows what she is going to do next. Gasper, as the only one who did not take part in the fighting, has remained mute and refuses to leave his box for anything. Their only solace was knowing he wasn't injured. The biggest problem, however, was by far Ichiei. All the sacred gear experts have inspected his cracked gray gauntlet and were completely at a loss for words. Though, they all said the same thing. It was just a gauntlet now. The pawn has not taken the news well. Asia has tried to bring him out of his funk, but it has been for naught. This rejection has not helped the former nun all that much either. The two keep spiraling. Reaching the podium, neither of the late arrivals cared to sit and just faced the council with Searsex stating, "I will be brief. So, shut up and listen." None spoke, so he nodded and explained, "Earlier today, my sister discovered a human falling from above the clouds and followed him as he crashes near the town of Ko. As he seemed to have survived the impact from such a height but was barely breathing, she decided to induct him into her peerage." Many nodded, so Searsex did not stop. Upon his awakening, however, he lashed out and them, going into a full-on rebellion against my sister and her peerage. No, they were soundly defeated. Many murmured at that. That peerage, although young, had proven themselves strong enough to take on other devils far stronger than themselves. Seraphal took over from there, as she was present, speaking up. Lady Graphia received an SOS from the Queen Peace, Akano Himejima, and as I was with her at the time, we made haste to back them up. I engaged the rogue Rook, while Graphia defended against his attacks on both peerages. Yes, he was fighting both peerages at once and was crushing them. Many more were intrigued by this now rogue Rook of the Gremory house. Even more so the more the two Satans explained the fight as it progressed. His name raised a few eyebrows, but Seraphal also told of her suspicions that Menma Maelstrom is likely not his name, due to his offhanded comment he himself made. The council was on the edge of their seats hearing how this Rook stood against both Satans and the strongest queen, and pushed them back each and every time they tried to push him down. Then came to the big reveal, handled by Searsex, who announced, then, when Graphia had snuck up behind him, a large ice spear against his spine, something unprecedented happened. Something none of us were prepared for. Gulps echoed as Seraphal finished. He ejected his evil piece. Gasps of surprise, none more so than Ajuka, who gawked at the news. Someone removing an evil piece was unheard of, let alone doing so to yourself without any external help. This Menma needed to be recovered and studied. Ajuka stood and spoke hurriedly. What happened to the mutated Rook? Did you recover it? I need it or him to understand this. Both Satans shook their heads, Searsex stating, he crushed it to dust in his hand and let the wind take it. There was nothing we could have done. Ajuka was further shocked. Those pieces are not brittle, nor should they break under. He gulped. This Menma character was strong. Almost Satan level of strength to pull that off. He will have to do research into this phenomenon. Searsex turns back to the room at large and continues. That, however, seemed to be only the prelude. Falbium stood at this, disbelieving what he was hearing, stating, you mean, that this Menma, as you call him, had more? He managed to hold you off and beat your sister's peerages, and you are telling us there is more? Both Satans nodded, and the man retook his seat, leaning forward to understand this threat more than anyone else. Searsex continued after he had settled. With the piece removed, he seemed to unleash enough chakra energy that even the gates of heaven sensed it. Gasps of realization. This Menma was not a human, but a yokai of some kind. Then, they must talk with Yasaka about. Their collective thoughts were sliced through by Searsex. He transformed into a 2-story tall, 2-tailed cat made of dark azure, blue flames with mix-matched eyes. Similar to the one his one attack, that bested Seraphal's triple dragon, had used Bijuu that more condensed. Zekrom Biel stood and was about to speak when Seraphal did, seemingly not seeing the man. This is when the angels, Grigori, then Yasaka herself arrived and called off the fighting. Biel, who was already standing, then decreed, then this means war. All 4 Satans glared at the being, before Searsex hissed back, quiet fool. We are not done. It gets worse. Biel dropped back into his seat, none making a sound as Seraphal continued. This is when he transformed back to his human form, untouched by the fighting and looking fresh. As he attempted to leave, Searsex rushed him at top speed and yet he was again pushed back. Tension skyrocketed. Searsex was one of their fastest devils. Him going all out and still being countered meant this was no laughing matter. Seraphal continued to tell the tale, seeing as Searsex was down at the counterattack. This is when the former Red Dragon Emperor attempted to do something. Even she was unsure what to call that stupid, screaming charge Ichiei had made across the battleground, and the subsequent easy counterattack Menma used. Though, she had to give him props for standing for his morals and superior. even if his motives were questionable at best. Clearing her throat, Serafal continued. After achieving Balance Breaker, for the first time, the red dragon attempted to strike the man down, only to be rebuffed at every strike. Menma even caught the dragon shot attack, which is made up of pure dragon magic. Tension had never peaked this high before, with everyone shifting uneasily at the prospect of this Menma character. Serafal nodded, before continuing. This is when we discovered what exactly our opponent was. He was not a human, that the Gremory thought he was. He was not a yokai, like we all believed. No, he was far more dangerous than any of the above. The air was thick enough to be seen by their keen eyesight, as all focused on the next words Serafal spoke. He is, and I quote, a true sage of the six paths, end quote. Those old enough to recall the tales of sages and their whimsical nature tensed up on a base level need of survival. The younger ones tensed unknowingly as their bodies seemed to know instinctively that this was a threat. A few of the guards about the room grew nervous as a foreboding feeling settled over the room. Not even the Bijuu wanted to touch this one. A first. Serafal, clearing her throat again, earned a collective flinch from the room, and she lowly chuckled internally at this development. Though, she continued seriously, yes. A true sage. It explains how we could not touch him. How we were so soundly defeated. Why he killed the Red Dragon Emperor for not answering his question correctly. Panic was settling in and none blamed it nor had any idea how to deal with it. They had angered a sage, and no doubt seek revenge for their transgressions. Kyoto Shrine midnight. Yasaka reached the secret entrance to the guest room, loosely dressed in light, easy to remove, clothing with her equipment for the night in hand. She had her hair down, figuratively and literally, and looking damn fine if you ask her. This wasn't exactly her first rodeo after all. As she approached the wardrobe handle, however, she again froze, just like when she was about to re-enter the room earlier. A feeling of dread came over her. As if, somehow, touching that handle would be a very, very bad idea. She wanted to ignore it, she really did, but her animal instincts were telling her not to chance it tonight and perhaps keep this for later. With a nod, she turned around and left, but offered a single glance back with a frown. This sage is proving to be rather standoffish and distant. Never disrespectful, but neither engaging. Continuing to leave, she missed the pale dust brown eyes following her every movement, paired with scarlet slits and bright orange. The next afternoon Naruto awoke with a jerk, snapping up, sword in hand, only to find himself within a room, protected by one of Shukaku's barriers. Glancing around, he spots all the tailed beasts, and dragon, snoozing on the other prepared futon as he had slept in his sleeping bag. Taking a deep breath, Naruto exhales slowly, and puts the blade back in its holster. Not wanting to wake up the others, Naruto simply takes out the book he was reading before he fell asleep. He hadn't read it in a while, and it reminded him of happier times. The tale of the gutsy shinobi. Sometimes, it was the only thing he had to do besides train or run. An hour later and a knock on the door jolted the bundle of various tales, fur and scales from their huddled slumber. Naruto watched amused as all 10 chibi versions of his family members struggled to unravel themselves for a good 30 seconds before he forcibly recalled them. Reappearing in the sealed space, all fully sized and separated from one another, they all let out a sigh of relief, though Diedrich was a bit disoriented at first. He adapted quickly as he shakes off the rust, so to speak. Naruto though answered the door to find little Kuno waiting patiently. Yawning dramatically, Naruto asks, "Kuno-chan, can I help you?" The little fox kid nodded frantically, earning a raised brow, as Naruto kneels down to be eye level with her. Kuno speaking. "It's past lunchtime and Okasama said that I could play with you after my studies. I finished my studies." Naruto nodded with that, understanding what wasn't said, so replied, "So you want to play with me?" She nodded, and Naruto hummed as he conferred with his counsel. Kurama speaks first, obviously, no harm in it. Yuki next. "I thought attachments would be a bad idea?" Shomei nodded, agreed. Shukaku squeaked, "Doesn't matter. If they stop us, we'll kill them." Matabi hissed, "That would be unwise. Though, I am more concerned with this clear sign of emotional manipulation." Surprising Naruto slightly, was Diedrich's input. "This is clearly a baby trap of some kind. Have you developed a bond with this young one to sway you to their way of thinking?" Son Goku grunted, adding, "Pair that with that attempted night crawling we discouraged last night." He shakes his head in disappointment, Though Kurama spoke up again. It is rather disappointing for this to unfold but also somewhat expected. We are powerful. That vixen is trying to tie us to them by any means. Isobue offered softly, we don't want any more conflict, we should leave. Kokuo nodded in agreement, seconded. Seiken spoke almost in a whisper, just like all the others. Diedrich spoke again, thoughtfully as he has come to understand his temporary host's mindset. It would be wise too. Yes. If you do not wish to gain weight to your presence here. Naruto nodded at the wise words, returning his focus back outward, and just as he was going to speak, Kuno did. Unbeknownst to Naruto and his gathering of beasts, Kuno was a very observant little girl. She watched him think long and hard on whether to play with her. It was slight. Most would have missed it. But she saw it. A deep sadness leading to regret. This flashed to understanding, then regret again. Seeing him focus on her, she spoke first. I understand Mr. Sage is really busy. Kuno does. Like Oka-sama, Mr. Sage is busy and important. But, if only for a small bit of time, I would be grateful. Kuno bows at the waist, the plea lost on no one, and Naruto was now at a loss for all of a second before letting out a tight breath. It really wasn't a choice after that, was it? The collective. Damn. Naruto placed his hand on Kuno's golden locks, ruffling them slightly, causing the girl to peek up at him as she returned to her full height, seeing his soft smile. A true smile that reached his eyes. His voice soft. Okay, Kuno-chan, for a little bit. Give me a moment, okay? The little Kyuubi nodded repeatedly, before bowing a second time, Kuno cheering. Thank you, Mr. Sage. Naruto returned to the room and sighed deeply, stating internally, I am labeling that in sulfur monosulfide ranked Kinjutsu, Kid-Eye Jutsu. Earning chuckles from the others beside Diedrich, who did not truly understand what that meant yet. Though, those that did not blame him for caving. None of them could have held against that unsuspected attack to the heartstrings. Naruto finished gathering his stuff, nothing left behind, as if he was never there. It was a habit of his, ingrained to avoid trackers and hunter nin. A quick jutsu to eliminate any lingering smells, and he steps out, surprising the small vixen. An offered hand snapped Kuno from her shock. Looking up at the stern Naruto, she took it and led him down the corridor, leaving Naruto to ask, Kuno-chan, where are we going? Kuno chirped happily, well, I am not allowed to leave the shrine. So, we are going to my favorite place in the garden. Naruto nodded, allowing himself to be led away, but he and all his beats were keeping a mental map of the place as they traveled. He acted ignorant of the discreet watchers. The whispering staff were ignored, but there was a gaze of hostility from a distance that was noted for later investigation, if he had time. Shrine garden, hold up a damn minute. This is no garden. This is a damn right forest, meadow, and it even has a damn lake. How can you call this a damn garden? Shrine forest. Naruto nodded at the update before he looked down at the kid with him who was beaming up at him. Impressive. So, where to now? The golden-haired child just smiled before slapping his stomach, Kuno calling out, tag. She ran off and Naruto chuckled lowly. Guess what this was, and decided not to introduce this world to the shinobi equivalent. Instead, he strolled after the small child. Tracking her wasn't required, her giggling told her location. For a full 3 hours, Kuno's giggling and screams of joy echoed off the clearing's trees and lake. At least this was what was told to Yusaka when she had come to retrieve both players. What she found, however, was Naruto, in his full combat attire, resting against a tree, reading a book, with a dozing Kuno resting her head against his leg, mumbling in her sleep, with a content smile on her face. It was a nice, picturesque even, sight to behold for the maiden of the shrine. Her approach did not go unnoticed, naturally, as Naruto closed his book, and slipped it onto his sage coat. Or so it seemed. It went into his wrist seal, but these yokai did not need to know that, thus the act of putting it away. Looking up at adult vixen, Naruto asked, you are here for her, I assume, Yusaka-san? Yusaka nodded but felt she should address that now, seeing as they had a bit of privacy. Yes. But I have been meaning to ask you. Have I done something to upset you? You have been rather formal and distant from us since you arrived. Naruto was only tempted for a moment to explain about what he found in his accommodations, but it passed and smiled at her. No, Yusaka-san. I am just trying not to step on anyone's toes as I am unfamiliar with the structure of things here. Using a smile to seal the deal, Naruto continued. I am sorry if you felt that I have kept my distance. It was not my intention to make you feel that way. Naruto suspected that this woman, who seemed to hold a high station locally, has an ability to determine lies from truth. Thus, he did not lie. Then again, it wasn't the truth either. Yasaka studied the sage for a few moments and not sensing anything amiss, she nodded and smiled. I see. Then, would you do me the honor of joining us for dinner? It is being served now, and I also wish to discuss your position as my council is rather eager to meet with you. Every single being within Naruto groaned at the mention of a council. Naruto nor Diedrich were exemptions from the collective whine. This was all encapsulated externally, to which Yasaka bore witness to, in a flinch. The older vixen was amused by that reaction, suspecting it was in regard to meeting her council, and not the dinner plans, and could not blame this sage. No doubt, he has had bad experiences within his own similar councils. Now that is a thought. Is a council of sages too? A scary thought. Vatican City Sariel enters the exorcist quarters, her presence unsurprising, thus she went unchallenged. Passing by another squad of her trainees, the Angel of Death turned down a corridor to the youngest qualified troops of theirs. Reaching the third door on the right, knocking twice, the sound of crashing and a body falling caught her ear. Knowing they would need a moment to collect themselves, Sariel stepped to the door opposite and knocked once. Not even 5 seconds later a blue-haired girl pulled the door, and went ramrod straight, stating, Mother, what brings you? The door opposite opens and another teen, of clear Japanese descent, with hazel hair in 2 pigtails, appeared in the door in her exorcist battle dress, and 2 came to attention, calling out, Lady Sariel. The angel nodded at the second newcomer, before returning to the brunette, Sariel speaking formally, pack your gear, Zenovia, we are going to Japan. The now known Zenovia nodded without question, returning to follow orders without fanfare, though the other girl gawked for a moment before cheering. Oh yeah? Getting to go home, I can't wait to. She was interrupted by the silver-haired angel clearing her throat, Sariel stating calmly, this is not a social visit, Irina. Please, calm down and get your equipment together so we can get underway immediately. Irina vanished back into her room with all due haste. Her excitement was palpable. It did not take long for Zenovia to emerge from her room, loaded with her gear, and sees her mother figure leaning against the wall just by the door, and asks, Mother, may I ask you of the mission objective? Sariel smiled at the young lady, a girl she had raised into this fine exorcist that stands before her proudly. She nods after a moment, stating, Gabriel had stumbled upon a one-of-a-kind entity that must be defended. Zenovia was surprised by that. Her mother is not exactly known for interacting her fellow angels that live in the heavens. Actually, does this mean she recently made a trip back up high too? Most unusual, but those are thoughts for later as Zenovia asks further questions. Entity? As in a person? Sariel shook her head in the negative, explaining. Too low a word for this being. He will appear as such but is by far the single greatest hope we angels have for our future. Subsequently, the church as a whole. We can't allow him to fall into devil hands. Zenovia nodded. This was as high level as it gets judging by the fact Sariel was leading this mission. She asks, then, what is his name? Sariel frowns, now that she recalls the meeting, none mentioned it. Speaking up, that is not required for this mission. We will know when we find him as his presence matches that of all 4 seraphim, combined. Zenovia, and the recently arrived Irina, gawked at that. A being with power on par with all 4 greats and it was just casually walking around unescorted. Both glanced at one another and nodded, before looking back at the Angel of Death, we will not fail you, or ourselves. Sariel nodded as she pushed off the wall, strolling off down the corridor, come. Time is not on our side. The 2 young ladies rushed to catch up, though Irina asks, is there a rush, Lady Sariel? The seraphim nodded, Sariel explaining, yes. Gabriel's report also stated that the devils had already battled him once. He beat off both Satan Lucifer and Satan Leviathan. Both girls looked to one another in shock, but Sariel continued, at the same time. The teens both missed a step at that, disbelieving that their presence was needed at this point, and Irina asked, are we needed then? I mean, he fought 2 of the stronger Satan's combined assault. We can't really hold a candle to that level of power. Sariel nodded, understanding that, but that was also the reason why. Most certainly that is the case, however that is exactly why we are needed there. Finally, the trio exit the sleeping quarters and step out in the courtyard where the rest of the Exorcist strike team stood. 4 more youngsters, a year or two older than the 2 already with the angel. Sariel informs the group at large, I have gathered you all for a mission of the utmost importance. A new entity. A sage has been discovered in Japan and is currently being targeted by the devils for subjugation. The youngsters were clearly unaware of the gravity of the situation, or of the sage statement, but then again, the archangels are probably the only ones who knew their strengths and weaknesses. Sariel continued, they have tried once and failed. Their next attempt will likely be far more formidable, and we must defend this sage at all costs. Heaven's future rests on this fact. Now the uninformed grew a little bit more tense at the prospect of Heaven's future resting on this mission. Sariel nodded at their dawning comprehension. We are moving out immediately. Do not fall behind. Gregory headquarters Azazel glanced up when his doors parted, revealing one of his cadres, who in recent times had been rather rebellious, but that is an issue for later, so asks the newcomer. Kokebil. What can I do for you? The 10-winged, elf-eared, fallen smirked in joy, a dangerous glint in his eyes. Kokebil poses a question. Is it true that the Satans were defeated by a sage? Azazel raised a brow. He thought that was supposed to be classified. Then again, Kokebil was always one to catch wind of any engagements of sufficient level, so the governor reports, yes. I am currently reviewing our plans for our next interaction with the sage in a few days. Kokebil nodded to that, grinning. So, we are bringing him into our faction? Good, we can. Azazel cut the battle junkie off, stating, if you so much as breathe in his general direction wrongly, Kokebil, I will kill you on sight, am I clear? The cadre didn't respond to that immediately, instead he lost his frown. Kokebil asked, you aren't bringing him in? Azazel stood abruptly, glaring at this idiot before him. Bring him in? He could wipe us out if we aren't careful. Not only that, but the devils will not take their defeat lightly, and no doubt Michael will not allow such a powerful person to go around unchecked. Even if, and a big if, we manage to talk him into our faction, forcibly controlling him is impossible. Kokebil nodded thoughtfully before saying, just let me speak with. Azazel cut him off again, that is not even a question. Stay away from him or I will kill you myself, assuming he doesn't do it for me. The door parts again and Benamun steps in with personnel records Azazel had requested previously. Stopping upon seeing the tenseness of both sides of the desk, she asks, is there a problem here? Azazel stood taller, lifting off his desk, arms crossing his chest, stating, no, Kokebil was just leaving. The cadre in question does so wordlessly. After the door shut, Azazel let out a long weary breath, knowing he has to deal with that sooner rather than later, and Benamun asks firmly, you know you have to deal with him sooner or later, right? He still thinks the war is ongoing. Azazel nodded, knowing this, as he looks at his closest confidant, I am aware. However, finding this sage business is a priority. Benamun handed over the collected files, and Azazel takes them wordlessly, as she explained, well, based off of the criteria you gave me, your choices are limited. Not many of our forces are laid back, easygoing and of sufficient strength to matter. Azazel flips through the small stack, noticing how small it was, and nodded, I was afraid of that. How else is Kokebil able to lure people to his cause so easily? Benamun adjusts her rimless glasses, yes, well, those that follow him in battle against the sage are unlikely to return. Assuming they are stupid enough to try. Her boss chuckled at that, it was rather remorseful, but that notion is at least partially comforting. If only it lacked the waste of potential and life. Taking 2 files out, dropping them on his desk before handing the rest back, but froze when she took hold of them, not letting go. Benamun looked confused as Azazel stared back at her. For a moment all was still, and just as she was about to ask, Azazel spoke. When was the last time you went on a mission? Benamun paled, stuttering out. Well, the thing is. Azazel grinned, never seeing anyone able to make the chief this flustered before, but presses on. You, me, and these 2. The 4 of us will be our best bet. Benamun looked bewildered at that declaration. Are you serious? Kyoto Shrine, despite his diplomatic attempts to avoid it, Naruto is dragged into joining the nine-tailed vixens for dinner. He is also tempted to promote that Kid-Eye Kinjutsu to triple S rank. Matabi is working on a counter to it, so it is only a matter of time before he too is immune to such an attack. As they are, Kuno is relaying her day with the sage to her mother, and Yasaka is nodding along but keeping what she assumed was, a discreet eye on said sage. Naruto has been eating mechanically, busy discussing things with his tenants, finalizing their plans for the morning departure. Sensing something amiss, Yasaka calls out, "So, Lord Sage." Naruto did not respond and just continued staring blankly at his food, which now earned the attention of Kuno, though Yasaka was concerned. She had never seen someone so deep in their thoughts before. She calls again, "Lord Sage." This time, however, she recalls she never actually got his name. Now that she thinks on that, he has not once mentioned it, just responded to his title as sage. Is there a reason for that? Perhaps a requirement for becoming a sage? This time she slightly flared up her chakra, as part of an experiment she just thought of. This time, Naruto snapped to her, slit eyes narrowed to lines, hand going for his blade. Oh, so that's where he keeps it, on his back beneath his haori. Sensing the chakra flare, Naruto snapped his gaze to the source, so close. Damn. Their discussion caused him to lose track of their surroundings, and thus, on ingrained instincts he reaches for his blade. They won't see this. He blinked. Several blinks later, he realizes that he was in the main room of the shrine with Kano and Yasaka. The latter had her chopsticks resting in her mouth, but had her golden gaze locked on him. He takes a deep breath, releasing his weapon, and tries to calm back down again. No threats. They were not under attack. After a protracted silence, Naruto spoke lowly, flatly. "Flaring your chakra like that in my presence is dangerous, Yoko-san." Yasaka paled. He was definitely not happy with her. She had been further demoted. She has to rectify this immediately. Standing up and bowing, "I am sorry, Lord Sage. I was calling you but..." She froze upon hearing the cluttering of dishes. Snapping up, Naruto was finishing washing the bowl, plate, and chopsticks in the sink. "Wait, please. I am sorry." Naruto remained silent as he finished placing the dishes on the side, and Yasaka watched as his chakra lifted the water from the dishes, drying them instantly, before dropping into the sink. A masterful display of chakra control that successfully distracted the vixen long enough for Naruto to pass her by. Were it not for a certain kit, Naruto would have slipped out without notice. Kuno stood before the door, arms outstretched, staring up at Naruto with her innocence on full blast, waterworks and all. Naruto, however, had his slit eyes narrowed, staring back irritated by this all. Kuno though spoke up, "Please forgive my Oka-sama. She saw you not respond, so she thought it would get your attention." The slits in Naruto's narrowed to lines, causing the girl to gulp nervously, but thankfully for Kuno, the door behind her opened up to reveal another fox Yukai, drawing the sage's eyes up to them. Said Yukai froze under the clear threat from the eyes of the sage. Narrowed to paper thin. Yasaka appeared in the background and saw what the new arrival was clutching to her chest. The nine-tailed vixen declared, "Ah, Kitomi, your timing is perfect. I was just about to talk to Lord Sage about weapon we commissioned in his honor." Naruto noticed the sword the fox lady was clutching rather protectively, and stepped back before standing aside without so much a sound being made. His thoughts though, now they are going to try bias, huh? Kurama snorted, "Like they could afford us. We are not for sale." Son Goku spoke next, "You cannot buy loyalty. They are going about this wrong. Perhaps they are desperate." Gyuki nodded, "Without a doubt. I was originally against leaving, but it seems like I was wrong in my judgment. Escaping this situation is of our highest priority." Shukaku cackled, hands waving around. "Let's do it like the land of bears." Kurama chuckled deep and throaty, "That really got the chakra going, no?" Isobu sighed at that, muttering, "We wiped out an entire hidden village. It was not a good thing." Matabi hissed too, growling, "Mia, Naru-kun couldn't sleep for a month after that rampage." Gyuki sighed at that, nodding. "It was unfortunate, but they kidnapped that young boy, hoping to lead us there. They shouldn't have killed him." Naruto was dragged into the real world as Yasaka presented him a new kodachi, head bowed. Eyeing it up suspiciously, Naruto asked, "Why are you giving this to me, Yoko-san?" Yasaka lifted up, before explaining, Earlier I noticed that you were sharpening a black tanto. I am not familiar with weapons myself, but normally after such a heavy fight they get chipped and require reforging or repairs. So, I wanted to give you this to use while we. Naruto cut in, stating casually, I have the best forger, armorer, and seamstresses on call regardless of where I am in the world. Naruto felt Shukaku, Matabi, Isobu, and Son Goku all grin and act bashful at his words, and sent them a thumbs up which they return with nods. Back outside, Naruto continued to explain, I have been surviving alone for a long time already and am fully self-sufficient at this point. Anything that I am missing, I can hunt for. This sword is worthless to me as I have one that works fine and is in great condition. I am sorry, but I cannot accept this. Yasaka was at a loss for words. She hadn't thought her efforts in this gift would backfire like this. At worst she thought he'd at least thank them and maybe test swing it a bit. But outright rejection. A tough pill to swallow. Along with the demotion earlier. She only wanted to get his attention, not said of his fight or flight response. Then again, taking his words as they are, he has been alone for however many years, such an act when he was distracted as he was would spook anyone. The sage even more so as he's alone and has no one to rely on. She was about to bow again and plea for an apology, however Naruto cut in before she could, saying, Stop that. I am no noble or lord or whatever. I am a sage. I do not deal with rank and station or whatever. This time the newest in the room spoke up, a vixen named Hitomi. Her 6 tails and pristine white hair paired with black eyes were definitely worthy of note. She says, if I may be so bold and say that we, as a people, have great respect for your role as the voice of the planet, Lord Sage. You may not like receiving such, but we feel it is an honor to give it. Her voice was as soft as cotton, even if she was a bit stiff in delivering it. That being said, Naruto's mind had been set. They were leaving, but doing so cleanly was no longer an option. How should he do this? Yasaka nodded after her fellow, adding, as chakra users, we are naturally more in tune than others with the planet. Your presence here is something we must protect as the last sage. We can't lose you. Naruto looked off to a distant signature, one that had been stalking the shrine since he arrived, but cut off Yasaka distractedly, saying, I am not the last. I sensed them briefly, and they me, but there are others. No doubt in hiding like I should be. He finally looked back to the stunned vixens and spoke firmer. That being said, as a thank you, I will deal with that pest that's been stalking around the shrine since I got here. Yasaka went wide-eyed. The way he was speaking could only mean, wait, we can. Naruto continued, speaking over her as he looks back at the signature's location, just beyond the forests behind the shrine, saying, until our paths cross again, this is goodbye. Yasaka waved both hands in front of her. Wait, what about the other factions? Naruto shrugged, your problem not mine. Yasaka was panicked now, but you said. Did I? Naruto cut in, and Yasaka went back and thought about it and realized. She was the one who said that, he didn't. Naruto's eyes narrowed, muttering, it's attempting to get closer to. Abruptly Naruto vanished in a yellow flash, much to everyone's surprise, just like he was gone. Shrine Forest Naruto appeared at the tree. Yasaka found him and Kuno resting beneath. The Hirashi marker burned into the tree's root via chakra imprint. Glancing around, he feels out the negative intent, and locks in on it, and upon locking down the location, Naruto muttered, gotcha. Leaping off into the trees, using the shinobi highway for the first time in a while, as it is a surefire route to getting cornered by village ninja who has them regularly. It did not take long for Naruto to find a dark-haired human-looking man with binoculars observing the shrine in the distance. Like a true shinobi, Naruto approached so softly and silently that not even the wind knew he was there. The malice and greed coming from this guy was at unhealthy levels, so Naruto wasn't going to try talk him out of whatever crackpot scheme he was running. He's tried that in past. Got him a chidori to the chest, twice. Before the man knew what happened, or could scream out, a pitch-black blade stuck out from his chest, and his head was removed from his neck that same second. Standing over the corpse, Naruto swiped the inhuman black blood from his blades, face scrunching up from the smell that reminded him of dead bodies. Rotten dead bodies. As he coughed and wheezed from these fumes, Naruto got clear of the smog, but what was bothering was the growling, snarling, hissing, or clattering in his head from all 10 residents. Clearly, whatever that was had angered them. Doesn't matter. That thing is dead. Time to destroy the... Naruto frowned, sensing signatures approaching. He began muttering. That did not take them long. Kurama, still growling, replied. We need to get moving, Naruto. They will try something else to try and tie us down. Naruto nodded but responded, the body? Surely, I should. Diedrich spoke next, sneering at what they were looking at. They should know what to do with it. Leave it to them to clean up. Naruto frowned but nodded again, offering a single glance back over his shoulder at the shrine in the distance, before vanishing from sight. Underworld cream ceiling tiles meet the eyes of one Rias Gremory upon waking up from her third surgery on her lower back. She takes a deep breath before attempting to wiggle her toes. No reaction. The new typical. To think. This was all because of that man. Menma Maelstrom. Wait. He said he would have to thank Menma for something, right? Whatever. All this because she found a super-powered sage, seemingly on death's door, and tried to induction him into her peerage to save him. It was a perk that he happened to be a real-life, genuine ninja. She blinked. His words coming back to her, the official term is shinobi. A shinobi sage. How contradictory. Now, here she is after crossing the wrong person, crippled and bedridden. Oh, and possibly unable to have children. They're still running tests. Thankfully, that got her out of that arranged marriage pretty quickly. Getting that sage would have achieved the same result, but them again. Silver linings, she's alive. Breathing and alive. Crippled, her peerage too. Rias blinked again, recalling the state of her peerage. Akeno, thankfully, is slated to make a full recovery. She got off lightly, if you call a punctured shoulder and dislocated arm light. Kiba too, cracked ribs. He'll be fine. Kaneko has everyone worried. She's relapsed back to that shut-to-the-world state again. Something to do after everything is settled down. Asia is shaky, but she's soldiering on. Need to talk to her about things. Ichiei. Her troublesome little brother figure. Everything the others have told her paint a dark picture. Physically he is fine. A few bumps and bruises. Definitely the least injured, however the loss of his gear's soul and its uselessness has done a number on his psyche. Depression is a slippery slope that one never truly recovers from, and Ichiei is already on it. She'll talk to him as soon as she can. With that, everyone is accounted for, though, even if it was only for a few hours. Menma was her second rook. It would have been perfect. Two rooks working together to hold back the enemy, and in. Sniffle. It's her fault. Was she too greedy? How was she supposed to know he would survive? His breathing was shallow and he was so banged up. Rias raises her arm across her eyes to hide away the tears. It's my fault. A new voice drew the heiress's attention to her right, where her fellow heiress was sitting, queen at her side as always, Sona speaking up. I admit, if you hadn't been so hasty in your actions, we may have not gotten so beaten up. The brunette looked at her stump of an arm, and let out a tired sigh, before looking back at the redhead, Sona stating. That being said, you likely did not have much time to decide, so you shouldn't beat yourself up about it. Just be grateful to still be alive. Rias muttered lowly, Sona. Sona nodded firmly, standing up again with the help of Tsubaki to keep level as she hasn't quite gotten used to her body's new weight distribution. Sona offers. Stay strong, Rias. That's what I wanted to say to you before you went and took this all on yourself. We chose to fight too, so don't worry about us, okay? Rias nodded and Sona smiled before heading out, leaving the bed-bound redhead alone with her thoughts again. This it for today, guys. This was the part 2 of What If Naruto Was the Jinchuuriki of 9 Bijuu X Highschool DxD. Stay tuned for more.